Jack vs Hercules, Shiva vs Raiden, the introduction of the one and only Buddha, more scenes added for Akita Tsuji, and much more to discuss in today's video. Record of Ragnarok Season 2 was much better than Season 1 in my opinion. However, take note that my expectations were pretty low after those PowerPoints and some other unfortunate things. But once again, I enjoyed watching the anime adaptation of one of my favourite manga, and they're improving, which is great signs. I've seen some people complain about there being 10 episodes only covering pretty much 2 fights. Yes, it's a little unfortunate pacing wise, but in the manga as well, the Jack vs Hercules fight was much longer than the first 3 fights from Season 1, so it was kind of to be expected I guess, and there was more stuff happening outside of the fights in Season 2 as well, so they adapted pretty much 99% of everything from the manga this time like they did last time. So this is what happened in the manga. Just Record of Ragnarok as a whole isn't the best manga for a anime adaptation, which I'll talk about later in the video, but I still enjoyed pretty much every moment of it. Take note that episode 11 to 15 of Season 2 will actually be coming out later in the year. So of course, Buddha's fight, with this season ending with Buddha's reveal that he's actually fighting for humanity, and with us seeing all the gods' pissed off reactions. A pretty perfect moment to end this season, so stay tuned for sometime later in the year for a few more episodes and the very hype Buddha fight. And if you enjoy this anime or manga whatsoever, consider hitting that subscribe button. I happen to talk about it pretty much all year round, so perhaps good news for you. The manga still stands quite a bit above the anime, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're an anime only. 73 chapters released. We are currently on the 8th fight, and it's a monthly release schedule. So I highly recommend getting on top of this amazing art, and you already know the story is pretty fire. One thing I wanted to talk about regarding the differences between the anime and the manga is they revealed this god next to Ares. This was the original manga panel, resulting in the theory that this is actually Apollo, one of the Greek gods confirmed to be fighting in the tournament. The anime actually showed who this person is, as you see on screen now. I personally don't think this is Apollo, and that the anime may have just created some random design to fill this up, and they didn't really get that this was a potential hint of the future, as the creators of the anime may have not caught that detail, or potentially the authors of the manga didn't really think too much about covering that god. This was whatever, it wasn't Apollo or anything major like that. Just that was pretty interesting to see. So the first fight of Season 2, Jack vs Hercules, with it being confirmed to be Hercules, not Heracles, I guess long-lasting debate in the fandom of Record of Ragnarok, at least for the manga readers. Now we know. Some CGI was used, didn't look the worst, didn't look the greatest CGI, it is whatever. It was mainly for the action involving Hercules, especially in his transformation, but anything's better than that PowerPoint presentation if I'm being honest. London Bridge falling down was done very well. The soundtrack, amazing. Jack was given justice as my favorite character. I am very grateful for that. And as a whole, they covered everything there was to recover for this fight. Like once again, 99% was adapted. A few lines here and there kind of changed a bit, but for all we know, that could be just the translations for the manga being a little bit off. But it was great. I do think the action was better for this fight when it comes to animation wise, which as I said at the start of the video, they're improving, which is a good sign. I enjoyed the voice acting for both the sub and the dub. I would switch it between when I was watching, so that was pretty cool. Regarding Shiva and Raiden, the order of this fight was kinda messed around and changed from the manga. The manga version is pretty much, they go from Jack vs Hercules straight into Shiva vs Raiden, and then after Raiden pretty much destroys one of Shiva's arms, we cut to Buddha and have that whole Team Buddha vs Team Loki situation. Then we cut back to the end of the fight between Shiva and Raiden. I think the anime did the right thing of doing the Buddha vs Loki stuff after Jack vs Hercules, and then having the last few episodes solely dedicated to Shiva vs Raiden, as I do believe that whole situation with Buddha kinda took away hype for Shiva vs Raiden, at least for me personally, and I did enjoy the anime version of this fight much more than the manga version of reading it monthly if I'm being honest. I don't think the animation as a whole for this fight was as good as Jack vs Hercules. However, specific moments were definitely the highlights of this season. For example, Raiden's named attack was very intense and probably a peak moment. The backstories were fine, seeing the other Indian gods was great to see. But definitely the highlight of Shiva vs Raiden was, of course, his transformation, the Tandava Karma. Simply badass, definitely preferred it in the anime rather than the manga, and is now my, I guess, favorite transformation in the series so far. For example, we compare it to the Zeus and Hercules transformation from the anime. There isn't really a comparison for me at this point. Shiva just looked like 10 times better. Just greatness for that. One thing they did pretty well for the season was the introduction of Buddha, one of the fan favorite characters in the series. He's pretty much perfect in my regard. Regarding the team fight, that was great, no complaints whatsoever. The Loki vs Akita matchup, which I've been talking about for like over a year at this point, has kind of become even more clear in the anime with their pretty much expanding on their pretty much exchange. So Loki vs Akita is something I predicted was actually going to happen for the last few rounds, and with this extra scene occurring in the anime, I think it could be the next round once again, so I'm still waiting for Akita vs Loki. Odin and Zeus' scene was definitely enhanced in the anime. The overall purpose of the anime to enhance the source material from the manga, they did it very well for this. Odin is still very mysterious, but his power was, I guess, portrayed better in the anime, at least for me personally, when he was pretty much telling everyone to silence, and then his crazy moment when everyone left. As a whole, the animation wasn't anything amazing, better than season 1. The music was good, no real complaints there. I think the opening for this season was better, but the ending for season 1 was better. Pacing is still an issue for the Ragnarok anime. This is because the way the manga is really set out, something crazy happens in one panel and then we see the reactions of various gods, but when that's adapted into the anime, they need to pretty much cut away to all the gods one by one. For example, Jack finesses everyone with his volumed trick, and then we go, oh, we cut to Loki, we cut to Zeus, we cut to Brynhilde, all stuff like that. That takes up a lot of time, and that is pretty much the main issue, I believe, is what kind of messes up the pacing for the anime of Record of Ragnarok, where you don't really have to deal with that when reading the manga, or as a whole, it's much faster, but that is something I've noticed quite a bit. If I had to give this season a rating, I would give it a 7, with season 1 being probably like a 5. Not the worst, not the greatest, but this season was definitely a big step up, and hopefully they do that even more for the Buddha fight and future fights if they continue adapting it. Hopefully they do. But as a whole, I hope the anime has got more people to read the manga. The new chapter for this month is out, so stay tuned for my video on that. But that's pretty much everything, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Check out all the other stuff in the description if you haven't already. Shout out to the mad lads who support the channel via the Patreon, and let me know down below what your favorite moment of this season was. For me, my favorite moment was of course the climax between Jack and Hercules, where Jack pretty much finessed the gods. Check out my dedicated video on how strong is Jack the Ripper.